How are we doing? Just going to show you some hits on mp3 and go over some details. Always good to know some of the ins and outs of working some of the code logic and all that good stuff. So hopefully we can look at some tips and tricks along the way. How's that? All right. So what I'm going to do to get started, I want to go ahead and make sure that we have something that's going to be inclusive of starter points. So one thing we want to be able to do is always think about what are some good starter points that we want to do. And you will see that along the way as we go through some of the sets of logic here. So in our example, we will go ahead and copy this in as a starter point and make sure we copy our command to get our starter files. Always good to do that off to that dot so we make sure we have our code. And I'll go ahead and put this in here. Paste it in, and you can see that we have, if I type in ls, we have our given file. Okay, I have another file to show you too as an example. ls-l is always good, so you can see anything that's a little bit more involved into the directory tree, and file names, date and timestamp, bytes, things like that. Privileges on the left, R for read, W for write, X for execute. So those are always good to know as we have different features for access privileges for users, groups, and others. That's why we have little chunks along the way, sets of 3, as you can see here. Who is going to have what? Okay, so those are just a little bit tidbits in Linux. Another good command is cat. You're going to see that's important. Sometimes we want to read data, starter data, whatever information to the screen. You'll use that, especially in Lab 5, mp5. Here's some starter information we're going to go over a little bit today. And then we'll start at execution so you can see results. Another command I like is history. If I can spell it right. And that gives me a lot of cool stuff. Anything that I've done, even misspellings, so I can sort of backtrack on my history of commands and things. And that's usually when you see something logging in or logging out, you should have a little bit check tape, history tracking of what you've done. Excuse me. So let me get started a little bit. Pico or mp3, talk a little bit about that. Always good to have the starter code to give you some heads up information, and you're going to fill in the data along the way with some of the hints, and so we'll show that. I'm just going to point out some salient points real quick. We're starting to use a little bit the math library, as you can see in C++. Some of the things are intrinsic, like in Java and in Fortran, for things like power functions, and maybe other features. So it's good to know a little bit the backgrounds, what's implicit, what's not implicit, that we can use in the languages for external things like exponentiation, logs. We have functions that are built in for our usages for MPs with our languages, so that's pretty awesome. I'm going to talk a little bit later on about some features like formatting, and that's going to be for some of the libraries or classes we may be seeing along the way in languages. Good to sometimes see people do this while we use some of these classes or libraries. Objects are from input-output stream that are built in. This is very important, of course, if we're going to use a C and C out, especially without any additives. We can just type things in straight up. So we always want to include this in C++, at least using namespace std. So when I type in like a C in or C out command, it's going to be automatic because we have this namespace that we include using std. So I don't have to keep writing a little bit extra work for input-output objects. It's there automatically if I use that directive. Okay, so please fill those in. Some of the hints will show you how to fill in those lines. This is very important when we come across 7, testing for parity. I look at what's called modulus. We have that percent symbol in Java and C++. Fortran uses MOD. Basically, I'm going to take what's on the left and divide into the right. If I have even result for remainder, not the quotient, then I'm going to execute these lines. Else, I'm going to execute these lines. So if I have odd panel versus even panel, I'm going to get a result that's going to be a little bit different. So the one shows you here in the outcomes, it'll show you a little bit here in a snapshot, something for even parity using Simpson's rule. And then if you rerun with a different result for the panels, you're going to get the odd parity. And as you can see, it's a little slight difference in our responses. Now I'm going to show you how to get these responses in a second. So you can pause the slide to see maybe answers for the odd parity there. And one of the things that are good that are learning to learn along the way is to use maybe error trappings too, in case somebody ever puts a negative value. I see sometimes people doing that for some additional credit, which is cool. So that's like a little if statement always to check and see if somebody's entering positive values or not, especially for input. Anything important in input is good to check over for error trapping. So you're going to put in the basics, so you don't have to do the else part right away to really test it. You can actually jump down to number 19 or 20, depending on your code logic there, and you can actually show a display command. Let me pull that up right there. So you can actually do that. The HIT's giving that to you a little bit later on, and you can actually show end results there early on to test and see your integral. So if I run this a little bit, and I'm going to see my end result there. So I don't have to really go over the odd part right now. I could do the even with putting that ending result there, the display result. And you can sort of see I tied out to the answers in the hints. As a test if you want. And sort of go down here and you can sort of see the pseudocode. That you would put for your respective language. So I think that's pretty good hints. And you should be able to run through a lot of the stuff we give you to help you start the ball rolling. You'll start to see a lot of this, guys, in C++ and in Java. Shortcut operators, they sort of take the place of doing a rewrite of this on one side of the equation and another, followed by a symbol. So that sort of rewrites this here as a one-stop shop, sort of easy, quick assignment for multiplication, division, subtraction, or modulus. So you can do plus equal in Java and C++. This way is a shortcut. Minus equal, multiplication equal, and modulus equal. So it's a quick way to write sometimes things very, very simply. So for instance, here, factor in delta x. I could write this long way in that language mentioned. Those languages mentioned. I can do it the long way here. Maybe you see that in code logic and help. Or you can go ahead and do it a shortcut way. Oops, sorry. Forgive me. Where did that go? Bum, 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 bum. I can do this like this as a shortcut. And I would do it with the sign. So the above line is exactly the same as the bottom. Horrible speller and typer, sorry. So you can see that's going to be the same thing here. There's just a rewrite with the symbol of this on one side as the other by doing the shortcut. And that little asterisk here follows through with that symbol on this right side here. So this guy equates to this guy right here. Good luck. Don't forget to put the semicolons in Java, people, C++, and please make sure we put end L versus end 1 for new line. A lot of times you see end L in C++. That is the new line character. So if you ever see that, when you do a little bit, your, excuse me, formatting, things like that, nice output. You want to make sure we put things correctly for types of displays that are going to be nice to the screen to see. So make sure that we see something like that, putting in our new line character as NL. excuse me, as we saw a little bit with that line that I showed you here. One of the lines for display. There's that endo. Okay, hopefully this helps, and we look forward to seeing you in MP4. So take it easy for now, and stay cool.